Hello and welcome to the SC Playbook podcast, ahead of the third episode of the NRL Supercoach 2025 preseason, proudly brought to you by Mortgage Choice SCW. I'm your host, Tim Williams, and joining me today for the first time in 2025, random stats guy, Rando. How are you?
Mate, bloody excited. Was driving in and couldn't believe that we're talking footy already. I was talking to Matty in the green room. 33 days to go till kickoff, which is crazy. It felt like it was 100 days to go literally last week. So it's coming fast, but with the cricket season basically wrapping up now, I'm getting excited.
Yeah, and that's the addition of the Vegas weekend as well, that we get actual rugby league games, like competition games, that a little bit earlier nowadays, which is fantastic. Mate, how's the off-season? Fill the people in. We're just on the northern beaches working on that tan, or what's been doing?
Yeah, mainly that, because I've got my days freed up. Doing a lot of American sports as well, which has been keeping me busy. But yeah, for the most part, during the day, just out there trying to get a tan, responsibly, of course, using sunscreen and all that. But yeah, it's been good. What's
your preferred SPF, mate?
I don't know, I'm just like the Cancer Council ones, just that. Nice and plain, giving back, you know?
You don't use sunscreen.
I don't, unfortunately.
Guys, also with us, as always, Matty, the Waterboy. Matty, how are you?
I'm good, Timmy. I'm actually just happy to be inside in air conditioning, to be fair. It's bloody hot out there.
It is very
That's why I said
hot.
Yes to this. I've only got fans in my house, so I needed the aircon.
Yeah, I'm saying, mate, little pedestal fans everywhere. It's like 38 degrees out there.
Those poor NRL players, they'll be training today. They'll be punished.
Surely tools down. Inside sesh, media session.
Maybe if you're the Panthers. If you're South, come second last, get out there.
Get going, toughen up. Matty, your commitment to the Supercoach 2025 season, it's showing itself off in funny ways, and the most recent of that was a dream you had during the week. You can see it, actually, Matty's dream on Guru's Instagram account, but it was all about sabotaging the biggest day of the year for the Guru, and that is his draft day. You, me, Hammy, we were there for it. We were using Monopoly deal cards, and we broke the best day of the year for him.
Basically what happened, if you didn't see it, in my dream, Guru was talking about how he was pulled second in his draft and he was going to pick Dylan Brown. And then he didn't know any of us were going up to his draft day. But we all went up there, and Hammy actually was first pick. And Guru didn't know that. So Hammy, of course, picked Dylan Brown. And then, I don't know, you know how dreams, they don't really make sense. Hammy being Hammy, he just kept putting down those just say no cards from Monopoly Deal. But then he kept saying, you owe me $2 million. And then I kept getting annoyed because in Monopoly Deal, that's not the rules. There's no money value when it comes to just say no. And then you told me, Timmy, that I was taking this too seriously. And then I was just like, I just want everyone to play fair. And then Guru's like, what are any of you doing here? It was basically just a big old sabotage of Guru's big day.
It's given me plenty of ideas about sabotaging Guru's actual big day in real life. We'll see what we can come up with in the preseason. Now, guys, on today's show, what have we got? My team reveal, my early season team reveal, Rando. I'll read that one out, have a chat about a few of the contentious positions, and you're going to rip me to shreds and ask me why I've done certain things and the meaning behind them all. And our team previews the Doggies, the Storm, the Seagulls, and the Cowboys on that one. Guys, jump into the SC Playbook Unlimited League. Tons of people have already jumped in on that one. The code is 434727. $1,000 up for grabs to anyone that can knock off the contributors in that. And of course, guys, the SC Playbook subscription package launched last week. If you had any trouble subscribing, hopefully you didn't, but we did tweak a little thing to get that going, so that should be all fine now. It is $8 a month, less than $2 a week, less than half a cup of your daily coffee. It's a bargain, Rando, right?
Absolute bargain.
We're also expanding our subscription value in 2025. All the regular articles during the week, 2 to 3 extra premium articles per round. Access to our subscriber-only WhatsApp group, late mail, all the threads there, contributor chat. We drop with our final teams for the season, our trades, skippers, all the good stuff. We'll have a subscriber-only podcast coming in 2025, video and audio for that one. Touching on a few different areas that aren't spoken about during the regular shows, super pods, that'll be a main theme of it. And plenty more. So to do so, head to scplaybook.com.au and find the subscribe tab in the menu. The new WhatsApp link comes in a confirmation email. If it's not in your email, check your junk folder and save me a lot of time. Now, team reveal. Rando, first and foremost, they're a bunch of cheapie placeholders. To anyone new to Supercoach, cheapie placeholders, when you pick a team list from round one and before the round one team list come out, we don't know which rookies are going to get named and which bargains are going to get named. So there's what we call them is placeholders. We put them in there in knowing that there'll be hopefully some cheapies come closer to round one. Now I'm going to go through backs, forwards, and then you're going to go through a few of the most owned players that I don't have and talk about why. So we'll start with the Pigs, mate. At hooker, I've got Connor Watson and Sandon Smith, couple of roosters there. In the front row, pains me to the core. I feel Crook spending this much money in the front row, and it could easily change by round one, but I do like the value. It's Terrell May and Tino for Malawi. Nafu White, who I don't particularly like, but he could be one of the better cheapies there, depending how the Roosters line up in round one, and Royce Hunt. In the back row, Isaiah Papali'i, Kelmut Tuolangi, Kuli Kefu, Fini Fuyaki, Corey Horsburgh, Kobe Hetherington's got a bit of placeholder vibe about him. He's cheap. How many minutes will he get if he starts at lock? We'll see. And Vaimega. I'm not going to pronounce that. So, it used to be Sifakula. Dimitri Sifakula. He's changed his name over the off-season, so I will get on top of that one. But a big, hopefully, future at the Warriors and should hopefully be coming off the bench. That's the pack, Rando. What are your thoughts?
Mate, it looks pretty strong. A few picks there that are very popular with the people. Of course, Terrell May, 50% ownership. You got players like Turbo with less than that. Obviously, the front row position last year was basically a shambles, not getting too many points there. So I like the price range, though. 500K, 600K, under 600K for all your players. It looks not too bad. And of course, you got the gamble there of Tino as well. Will that change after the preseason trials? What are you waiting on there, or is that a definite lock-in for Tino?
The only reluctance I have, I'm very confident in Terrell and Tino. I think they're both undervalued. It's just that I never spend up big on front rows. I always go with sort of mid-range ones at that sort of, anywhere from sort of 350 to 500, and I'm happy to start with them at that price. I don't expect much out of them. Just find someone who can plot away and knock out 45 until you can upgrade them later in the season. The thing about Terrell and Tino, they've got genuine upside. I mean, Tino started about 780, 790K round one last year before his injury, so he's got a massive price reduction, but he can score tries, he offloads, he gets attack in him. I do think that he will start slow. He's come back from an ACL. It's going to take time, but at the very worst, he'll hit his value, and I think he's near enough a potential set and forget in the front row early on the season. Terrell May, we've spoken about him in depth already, but attacking upside there, likely to have big minutes at the Tigers, so I really do like those two. So I'm finding it hard to stray away from them. If a genuine like 350k front rower comes up who we could see getting like, let's say Corey Horsburgh gets named to start at lock or something like that, maybe I just look to play big red and start him there and I can drop off one of them. But that's where I'm leaning.
I was going to say, obviously, before I go on to the other positions, there's two big omissions that I would have sailed straight into my side and made sure of it. One of them, Payne Haas. The other one, Adam Fanua-Blake with the Sharkies as well. Why are they left out here? I'm questioning Adam Fanua-Blake. We saw what Tom Hazelden did scoring tries close to the line. Surely he's a look at least.
I'm not as convinced. I just think, AFB's coming off a ton of tries again last year. He'll score tries again this year. He's a gun. Phenomenal. Could easily be the number one scoring front rower in the game. My concern is with AFB there was actually a quote from him this morning, I think from Sharkies training or speaking to the Telegraph or someone, about him playing fewer minutes. I just think with the Sharks 4-4 bench, they always seem to run. At times they've run like a Daniel Atkinson at 14, which they might do, but Fitzgibbon loves his 4-forward bench. He's not going to go up in value. I don't see him increasing his average too much in terms of points, so I'm happy to make him a target later on. Payne Haas, a solid buy early, but again, I don't see a lot of value there. You can plug him in there, do a job, but yeah, I'm going to pass on those two.
Fair enough. Heading into your back row, plenty to like there. Corey Horsburgh, probably one that I wouldn't think is the most owned player, but you've got him there in your bench. I love the addition of Papali'i. Will he get the minutes, though, at Penrith? We were talking in the green room. Of course, Liam Martin, Scott Sorensen, to a lesser extent, Luke Gardner as well around in that team. Do you think he'll get much minutes? And is there a possible middle spot?
I think Isaiah Papali'i starts on the edge for Penrith. I think Scott Sorensen will go back into that middle role for the Panthers that he's done in the past so successfully. If Papali'i plays 80 minutes, I think he's only going to go up. I think he's going to kill it and increase in value and score well, potential keeper status. The big one with IPAP will be, does he play on the right outside, Nathan Cleary, where he's spent most of his time on the edge in his career, or does he go on the left outside, Talangi or Cole or Schneider, whoever wins it there? you probably add 15 to his average if he's outside Cleary, but they'd have to move Liam Martin to do so. So that'll be one of the big preseason watches of what's happening there. Finifuaki, Kelma, Tuolangi. Tuolangi, in his 4 80-minute games last season, averaged 74.25 with 42 in base. Not great base, but there's a lot of attacking upside with him. 50 points per game in 3 games in 2023. That was with 1 try on that. Priced on a 44-point average in 51 minutes per game. So I only see upside there. Not locked in because there are so many edge back rows there that can do it. Sean Lane, Ryan Madison would almost need confirmation that he's playing 80, but I think he can go to that level this year and sort of Madison and Lane play through the middle. So I like Kelma and Finifuaki, again, would need to see confirmed 80 minutes at the Dolphins, but 54 points per game average in his 7 80-minute games last season. He's priced on a 38-point average in 54 minutes per game. Another who's a bit reliant on attacking stats, but he's a beast. We've seen him. So they're the ones that I like there, mate. And then, as I said, the cheapies, they're a watch. Big Red, Horsburgh, Emre Gules just signed with the Dragons. It all helps in terms of the middle rotation at the Raids, but I think he's got a big year ahead. In the back line, Nathan Cleary at halfback with Nico Hines at 5'8". I see this, much like last season, Rando, as being a bit of a troublesome position leading in. I struggle with who to lock down at this stage. I've ended up, for the moment, with Dylan Brown and Tanner Boyd. I'll touch on that early because I'll run through the thoughts there. Basically, I didn't see a lot of value in the position. When we pick our teams in round 1, the way I certainly approach is, right, who is undervalued, who can rise in value and increase my squad value. I didn't find much. So I went back to Dylan Brown, who averaged a lot less last year than previous years. He's rock solid, just didn't have a lot of high upside games. But could easily change for a bunch of different people. Tanner Boyd may or may not start round 1. The Warriors need a long kicking game, desperately. So if Tanner Boyd does get the nod at, say, 7 and Tamari Martin were to play 14 off the bench, they're sort of him, Schnell, Harris, Tavita, he's the genuine value in position at 329k, and he would goal kick. Yep. What I kind of want to do, I'm actually warming to Luke Metcalf at 444k. Metcalf, he starts pretty cheap. Obviously had some injury concerns in recent years. But why I don't have Metcalf in at the moment is because if Tanner Boyd gets picked, Metcalf, you would imagine, probably doesn't goal kick.
Yep.
And in terms of placeholders in my team to start the season, I couldn't really have Metcalf there and Boyd there. The Warriors also have a bye, and I think it's round 5 or something, so I couldn't carry the 2 of them. But yeah, if Boyd gets picked, Metcalf becomes heaps less appealing. But if Boyd misses out, I'll probably have Metcalf in my starting 5'8 role. But then it's like, who do you partner with him? Because there's not a lot of value. So a big watch on the 5'8 position. A few pods in the back line. And the main 2 being, it's CTW, I should say, Greg Marju and Ty Munro, Campbell Graham, Billy Smith, and then essentially some cheapy placeholders. But Jackson Purdue at the Cowboys, Robert Darby, Robert Toya, my fullbacks, Tom Trbojevic and Kalen Ponga and Isaiah Iongi, who's in that flex role for the time being. What sort of stands out there too, mate?
Mate, first of all, giving Greg Marzio another shot. We saw the complete Newcastle attack turn to the right-hand side. This is a huge gamble at 513k. Yeah. How are you seeing it for old mate Greggy Marzio? Because that is a huge gamble for me. Because if they do come back to that left side, Newcastle, we saw 2 years ago what that meant for Greg Marzio's stocks. Massive gamble early.
I don't see it as a gamble because I just do not see how Greg Marzio averages less than his 52 last year. He averaged 77 the year prior when they were going to the left a lot. Now, the key to this is, of course, in the preseason, just need to see him going to the left a little bit more. They spent so much time heading to the right. I do feel like that has to shift at some point. I still feel, and I said it time and time again, that Ponga's best footy is played down the left edge. Bradman Best is a big part of this. Bradman Best, who missed a lot of footy last year due to generally hamstring injuries. Ponga has a great combination with him on the left, one of the better tip-ons in the game, Bradman Best. So fantastic for Greg Marzio. Best just attracts so many defenders. Dylan Lucas played there a lot last season when Best was out injured. He's a back rower. He'd run lines, but he wasn't a ball-playing option. So I just think worst-case scenario, he averages 50 again and he holds his value. But upside, I think, with a pretty soft draw to start the season for the Knights, Greg Marzio, I think he's a bargain.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm looking at other players the same size, and You also got to take it on like Isaac Tungo, who we know when Nathan Cleary lines up, he turns into an 80 average compared to when Nathan Cleary's off the field. He is a 40. But I'm liking the squad at the moment, and I think the big one, Cleary and Hines in the halves. You have not held back on the budget there whatsoever. I think that's a genius move.
Thanks, mate.
It's a genius move.
That feels really good, especially after how I went last season. To be called a genius. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Again, I just think it just feels so risky not starting with Cleary with his upside, and I'd say set and forget, but he's also struggled to get through a full season a lot. The one thing about Cleary is it's a relatively tough draw to start the season, and he's still in like a little bit of doubt from Vegas. I expect him to play. I'm sure he'll be fine, but regardless, he could be a little bit underdone coming into it. So I just think as long as I've got room in my budget and there's enough cheapies in there, I'm happy to go Cleary. I'll be honest, I'm pretty close to having Nico above Cleary if I had to choose between the two. I just think Nico, Cleary's coming from a Penrith side that's won 4 comps in a row. They're not, in theory, going to get any better. They've lost a few key players. I think there's big hype around the Sharks this year. Adam Fanua-Blake comes in. What Nico Hines will be able to do off the quick play the balls of Adam Fanua-Blake, I think is terrifying. Decent enough draw. So I really like Nico. I think his value at $735K is tremendous. Cleary, I think he's probably undervalued too a little bit due to injuries and sort of a stop-start year at stages last year. But yeah, I'm happy to pay out for the big boys unless someone really emerges. Sandon Smith, you could potentially run him at 7 with one of these two, but I'm happy to plug him into the hooker role, which is a little bit trickier. Fair enough. And the last question, the all-important, the new addition, the flex option, Iongi, a massive test for him. You like the cheapy fullback play for the flex? Yeah, I just think whether it's Turbo, Ponga, Iongi, whoever it might be, I just think it's the position with the most upside in the game. And I've seen a lot of people out there, the Spy included, who are looking to start without Iongi and go with 3-gun fullbacks. I just think a starting fullback at a club, he's going to have runs. There'll be a few attacking stats if nothing else. I just think he can get to a minimum of 4 to 450K quite quickly and quite easily, all going to plan. There's that tough Melbourne game in round 1, which isn't ideal. Don't necessarily have to play him. I could play Tommy Turbo as my flex or whoever it might be and put Iongi on the bench and not actually play him round 1 for that one, which I'm happy to do. And I just think he's going to be a really easy ticket to a fallen gun, whether that's if one of Latrell Mitchell or James Tedesco or someone, for whatever reason, is going to have a slower start to the season. They're not all going to go bonkers, the fullbacks. And I'm just hoping by round sort of 5, I can go Iongi at hopefully 500K to one of those blokes at 750K for not too much money, and that'll be my ticket to 3-gun fullbacks. If Iongi, as that sort of third fullback, is to go no good early, I'll trade him out to a cheapie who's doing well. I can stick with my 2 fullbacks in Turbo and Ponga and get a cheapie basically anywhere else in the game. That's how I'm sort of feeling with the flex at the moment, and I'm happy to bank it. Especially, I'm trying to run a team with Cleary and Hines and all these, spending up more than I want in the front row. Going to need a bit of value elsewhere. So I see why people are looking at the 3-gun fullbacks, but I'm pretty happy with Iongi. Fair enough, and he's got a great upside. He's got a great ball playing skills as well. He had 18 try assists in 24 New South Wales Cup games back in 23. Can score them. He's also averaging 170 run meters in New South Wales Cup too. So he's going to get lots of runs. He can ball play and add that extra attack as well. And just touch on a few other sort of early headaches I've got. I mentioned the 5'8" position. I'm not against strengthening my CT dub a little bit. I do like the looks of, and we'll talk about them in this episode, but both Ruben Garrick and Jacob Kiraz. I've got some good numbers around them and their averages, without injury impact games last year, and Kiraz on the wing, which are really appetising. So I can see myself starting one of those to strengthen the CT dub, especially if a few of these cheapies don't emerge. To do that, I'd probably either have to drop one of the front rowers or, it might be Dylan Brown down to sort of Luke Metcalf to be able to do that. But I'm kind of eyeing off one of those. I don't really know which one, but I think both have plenty of appeal. They're probably the main ones. Again, we'll go through some of Tommy Turbo's stats shortly, but with their run early, it just makes me sick, the thought of not owning Tom Trbojevic. So pretty keen on him. That Kobe Hetherington slot, there's a bit of money there that I can potentially have a bit of a play around with and go up to a back rower. I wish Cam Murray was available because I think he's discounted, but he's going to miss, the first month or so he's a no-go. But yeah, all in all, I'm pretty happy with my team and where I've spent up the big money. It's probably more a few of those mid-ranges and cheapies where there's a few decisions to be made. Fini Furiaki, Tuolangi, as I said, need to see them starting, playing 80. But yeah, that's how we sit at the moment.
Looks good. Looks really good. I'd love to see how the back row evolves for you, especially with some big omissions with Angus Crichton. Katoa also missing away there too.
I want Finifuriaki Tuolangi to be, whether it's 550, hopefully 600k by round 5 or 6, and just make the jump up to one of those guns quickly. But yeah. Matty, any question marks around that, or have we sort of touched on it? Okay?
No. It looks good to me. I really like I'm pretty... the Cleary Hines Hill is one I think I'll be dying on by the time round 1 comes. Like, I don't need to repeat what you said, but obviously Cleary's basically set and forget outside of injuries and suspensions, but we know, you know what you mean. You know what I mean there. And I said last week, I reckon Hines could win the Dally M this year. Like, he had a bad year last year. My light just went off. He had a bad year last year. In comparison to himself in the last few years, and he still averaged 75, and I still thought he started the season really, really well. I think people's views on Nico are very, very skewed, and I wouldn't let that get in the way of picking a team, because I reckon he's going to have a gun year.
Yeah, no, I think I'm with you, mate. And the one that I will throw back to you is around Cody Walker, because he's one that I'm really considering for 5'8". If the Bunnies look good in the preseason, he starts cheap at 559k. Yeah. I literally think the only red flag around Cody Walker is age, but he's still lethal in attack. He averaged that 57, his worst in years, in a terrible Bunnies side. They've recruited well. They have Wayne Bennett. I think they're in for a big year. Draws good early on. Then they have, I think it's about around 3 for 5 or something. It gets quite tricky with a few tough games, but struggling for value at the 5'8" slot. Cody, I could see myself running like a Cody combination with a Luke Metcalf. What are your thoughts on Cody? Age is a barrier, but I mean, we saw it SJ did, not quite as old, but 2 years ago.
I guess the advantage Cody has is he started so late, and it doesn't look like he's slowing down. And even though he had, again, by his standards, a down year last year, it was because of what happened around him. Like, Souths were decimated, the off-field dramas are crazy. Like, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong for Souths last year. Like, he played half the year at 5'8", he played half the year at halfback, Cody Walker. Like, he's going to go back to 5'8" this year. If he plays the whole year and averages, 57?
Yeah.
Mate, seriously, I'll eat this hat. There's just no way. I reckon he's a really good shout.
The amount of attacking stats he'll get with a fit Latrell Mitchell there as well. I know there's the argument maybe Latrell can steal a few off him, and maybe he does, but I think if Dodd...
But no one was stealing off him last year. Souths weren't scoring last year. So, I reckon he's... Look, I don't think he's going to, be one of the top players, but for his price, I reckon it's really good.
We look back at it, 57 average last year, 69 in 2023. He was actually 57 in 2022, so I shouldn't say it was his worst in a long time. 84 back in 2021. We know there are a lot of points that year, I get it. 2020, he averaged 74 points per game, and... Yeah, I just like the Bunnies this year. I think he can be involved, or will be involved, in plenty of attacks. So I don't mind a little Cody Walker play, but definitely it's an eye test for the entire Bunnies side throughout the trials, pre-season challenge, see what they look like. Now, I'll get that up on site soon enough, and there will be changes to it. I'll probably get it up by the back end of the week. There could be 4 different changes to it if we find out new information, but with analysis on each player and all that as well. Now, let's get into our team previews to start the show, and we will start with the Canterbury-Bankstown Bulldogs. The Doggies coming off a stunning year last season. I have to log into my own account on the website to get my predicted team up, so that's a good start. Connor Tracy at the back, Marcelo Montoya and Jacob Kiraz on the wings, Stephen Crichton and Bronson Sherry at centre, Matty Burton and Toby Sexton in the halves, front row, Max King and Sam Hughes, Reid Marnie at 9, Viliami Kikau and Jacob Preston on the edges, Kurt Mann at 13, and then a bench of Bailey Hayward, Satili Tupanua, Josh Curran and Jamin Salmon. You'll note there one very popular player, Rando, that is in the game, Tom Amone, not in my starting side at the moment. He will be in a battle, I think, with Jamin Salmon for a final bench spot. I'm not that convinced on him, unless there's a real dearth of cheapies this year. If he comes out and gets named to start round 1, he's coming back from England, had some success over there, but it's going to have a 4-4 bench anyway. The Doggies, I'm just not convinced that it sounds bad, but it just reeks of like Palazzo Farmer silly territory, Franklin Pele in recent years. So I'm not overly keen on Tom Amone, who's about 25 to 30%, even more potentially ownership at the moment. And then just the other one there is Marcello Montoya and Blake Wilson going at it for a wing spot. Otherwise, it's a pretty settled roster. Sitili Tupanua also apparently doing some quite good things in the preseason over there. Their draw to start the season, the Dragons away, Titans at home, Eels away, Sharks away, Knights at home. First 5-round rating, I've got an 8 out of 10. Relatively easy start to the season. I like it. Rando, we'll start with Jacob Kiraz. 702k. He averaged 70 points with 38 in base and 16 in power stats last year. That's 54 points before any major attacking stats are added. You go down and look at how he went from wing and centre and the difference there. He averaged 57.36 in 11 games at centre last season. He averaged 84 in 13 games on the wing last year, where he'll start this season. Pretty enticing numbers.
Very.
What do you reckon?
I like it as a starter as well. You look at his first 2 games in particular, up against the Dragons and the Titans, both averaging 70 plus against these 2 teams as well. He then gets into Parramatta and Cronulla, where he does average less than 50, and particularly at the venue, he averages less than 40 at CommBank and Shark Park as well. So he might be a good start-off position here. 14% ownership to start the year as well across, so not many people dropping him into their centre dubs just yet. The big question here, and the question I was talking about in the green room around the Bulldogs, is will we see second year syndrome with this side? Because we've seen in the past, we saw the Warriors last season, saw the Cowboys the season before all kind of drop off. Are we going to see that style of attack continue for the Bulldogs, or will it be another slow start for them like we saw last year?
And maybe you're right. I suppose the one thing about them is they were built so much off the back of their defensive, how resolute it was last year. They've sort of got that ticker back in the squad. I wonder if this year they start opening things up a little bit and you go, all right, we're rock solid in D. Our defensive patterns are fantastic. Let's start using the footy a little bit more, as we saw them do a little bit towards the back end of the that game against the Broncos where they towed them up at Suncorp. They're going side to side. They can do it. So even if there is a bit of regression potentially, maybe that there can be an uptick in points scored or near enough similar. So watch there, but I do like Jacob Kiraz, and I wouldn't mind trying to get him into my side this year. As I said, if I get an elite CT dub, I think the 2 that are undervalued are probably Kiraz and Ruben Garrick. So I'll probably be one of them. But yeah, a bit of food for thought. Matty Burton at 5'8". I mentioned a tricky 5'8" position. Birdo's one where if the Dogs do continue to improve, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, he's a serious option. He's lost his dual half at 5'8", which is a bit annoying. That was very handy last year. But not as much of a roller coaster as people probably thought he may have been last year. He had 50-plus points in 18 of his 24 games. He averaged 66 for the season. So I don't mind him. He also opened up last year with a 15-point score in round 1, then a 35 in round 3. This is when the Dogs were finding their feet. So if they can start a little bit faster, I don't mind the Birdo play.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, you look at his final 10 games of the season, he scored 60-plus points in 7 of those 10 games. The big games don't harm him as well. In that final, even though it wasn't a Supercoach calculated game, he had 90 against Manly in that elimination final loss. He looks really enticing here. Obviously, the 5'8" position, you may as well take a gamble if you want to have a Matty Burton in your side. But for me, I reckon that 5 out of 10 rating is probably bang spank on the money there. It's a position where he's not a must-have, but if you want him, it's not the worst decision to make.
Jacob Preston's priced on a 62-point average from last season. I know he's on the Spies radar to kick things off. Provided he plays 80 minutes on the edge, which I think he will. Apparently, as I said, Tupanua's impressed in the preseason. I think he gets used more in a middle rotation, but 62 points in 67 minutes last season. In his 6 80-minute games, he averaged 75 points. In 2023, his debut season in the NRL, he averaged 65.64 in his 14 games, of 80 minutes. So there's a bit of value there in Jacob Preston in my eyes, and one with certainly upside. Gun football only getting better. Josh Curran's one that I'm not overly keen on. He does have the dual tour front row forward. He'll have a few admirers, but just with the 4-forward bench, he was playing off the bench a lot last season and probably starts off the bench this year, so I'm not overly keen on him. I think Bailey Hayward is one just to keep an eye on. I think at 300k, I don't think he'll be a cheapie to start the season, but I think at some point when a few injuries hit, he could find himself playing a much bigger minute role. Could even find himself starting at lock at some point, or if Reid Marnie were to go down, he could deputise at number 9, depending on how they wanted to do that. So just keeping an eye out for Bailey Hayward, and as I mentioned, Tom Amone, not overkill on. Mate, anyone else at the Dogs you wanted to touch on?
I think you've tapped on all of them. I think Jacob Preston was one of the main guys that I kind of really liked heading into the start of the season. He's got an average of 60 plus against 4 of his first 5 opponents. First 10 rounds here, when I'm calculating through team averages, venue averages, his own personal averages, and the position that the opposition has conceded to his position, he's averaging around 65 for those first 10 rounds, which is, of course, above his 62 point average. So he could be a good spot in there. I think his ownership's around 6% as well. So really low. Good potential option there if you're looking for a back rower.
Yeah, love it. Matty, anything to add at the Doggies?
Yeah, I will. Just off that Preston thing, if I was a Dogs fan, like Supercoach aside, I'd want Preston to be starting on the edge. And for that reason, I would want Preston in my team. I'm just not sure if that's how, with Tupanua coming, I don't really know what they're going to do. I don't think anyone knows what they're really going to do. So I think Preston's a big question mark. If he does end up, getting that spot and playing a lot of minutes, then sure. But I just don't know if we're going to find out before round 1.
I'm stunned at the chat around Preston not being a big minute back rower. And I'm quite confident that, despite hearing things that maybe Tupanua is pushing for that position, Kiraz playing, you'd imagine, 80 minutes on the left edge. Jacob Preston 80 on the right makes sense to me. I like Tupanua as a footballer. I always have. And he's had some injury concerns in recent years, but he's lethal there. Good defender. Also covers centre quite well, as we saw at times last season. But I just think Preston has so much else. He'll be in the New South Wales Blues frame this year, if not this year, in the next couple of years, if he's not already. I just think it's lock. I would be locking that in, and I'd bring in Tupanua on through the middle, and he can play on the edge if need be.
I would be locking that in as well.
Yeah.
It's just the chatter that's really throwing
Heard a
me.
lot, yeah. Anyway.
We'll see.
We'll get into Darussi's here. I'm sure he'll be keen to hear what we have to say about what their edge rotation should be, or lack thereof. Moving on to the Melbourne Storm, and a very settled 17 there. Ryan Pappenhausen at fullback, Will Warbrick and Xavier Coates on the wings, Jack Howarth and Nick Meaney at centre. In the halves, Cam Munster and Jerome Hughes. Front row, Stefano Udakamanu, the big recruit from the Tigers, with Josh King. Harry Grant at 9, edge back row of Eli Katoa and Sean Bloor, Trent Loiero at lock, and then a bench of Tyron Wishart, Alec McDonald, Christian Welch and Tui Kamikamitha. Not a lot's going to change there. Rando, a lot of word that the Kiwi Rugby Sevens convert, Moses Leo, flying down there. And a bit of a gun. I've been back, watched a few of his highlights as well. Looks the goods. Genuinely going to push for a centre role to start the season. Would have to do a lot and really kill the trials because of, what Meaney and Howarth did last year. But certainly with versatility around Howarth, we know he can play back row and centre. It's an option there, but probably one just more to keep an eye on for later in the season. Storm start the season with the Eels at home, a bye in round 2. Very annoying for their Supercoach credentials. Panthers at home in round 3, Dragons away round 4, Seagulls away round 5. Their first 5 rounds rating is a 4 out of 10 in my books. There's a few to talk about here. We'll start at Jerome Hughes at 805k. Dalian medal winner last season, averaged 82 points per game, up from his best of 73 back in 2022. He averaged 71.6 points across the first 5 games last season, so started well enough, but below his season average. Rando, the issue for me when paying 800k for him, I don't think he's going to go up in value much. Just a lot of money to be paying for a half that's not a goal kicker when you'd have to be going him over Cleary or Hines, unless you wanted the 3 of them in the flex, but I just don't see the early value there. Then you add in the round 2 bye. Not for me.
Yeah, the first 5 rounds just make me want to stay away from him for the time being. I think Cleary and Hines are definitely the better options here. Penrith's going to be tough in Melbourne. He averages 43 against them. Manly at Brookie, also a sneaky tough fixture for Melbourne as well. He averages under 60.
Manly love playing the Storm at
Yes,
Brookie.
exactly. And you got to think of that one as well. Warriors, Dolphins, maybe try and get him in for those rounds. He averages 90 against those 2 teams. That comes in at round 6, so I wouldn't start with him. I wouldn't.
And that, I do think that the 3 fullback guns will be the play moving forward. If you're starting with Oyongi, once you can afford it, but if you get there and Hines, Cleary killing it and Hughes is killing it, maybe you can run the flex around the three halfbacks down the track as well. Ellie Katoa, 717k, 73-point average last season. 47 in base, 12 tries for the year. The beauty of Ellie Katoa, there's no state of origin concern, being Kiwi eligible. He's only just turned 25. He's still pretty early on in his footy days. 73, yeah, I think he can average on his 73. Sorry, increase on his average of 73. I'm getting there. But again, there might be a little bit of value there.
Yeah.
But I do think you're paying up a lot for a bloke who's probably around about his value. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting play. Maybe could get above his average, but I don't think it's going to happen in the first couple of rounds here. I reckon that price could potentially drop a little bit, and then you can pick him up at a later time. As I mentioned, a tough draw for Melbourne, and the second round bye, having a 717k second rower just sitting dwelling in there round 2. Probably not an early buy for me, but definitely someone I would consider later on.
I will say, and I've mentioned it a few times already this season, but just around the early buys, we've spoken about it with the Titans around a few players and the Melbourne Storm round 2. It does just give a decent little opportunity for pod plays, because blokes like, we'll get to them very shortly, but Harry Grant, whether it's Cam Munster, whoever it might be, if you want to go Jerome Hughes, it's going to keep people away from them. So to go through their current ownerships, Harry Grant's at 13.9% ownership, which is pretty incredible. Cam Munster's at 11, Ryan Pappenhausen's at 10, Jerome Hughes is down at 6% ownership, Ellie Katoa's 7.4. If they don't have that round 2 bye, they're all tripled, if not more. So for the sake of one game early in the season where there's not normally sort of overly high scoring anyway across the board, there's opportunity. Mate, moving through a few others at the Storm, as I said, a very, very Supercoach relevant team to start the season. Harry Grant, that man. 691k. I've had him as set and forget at hooker in the past. Priced on a 71-point average. His lowest since debuting in the NRL. How he starts the season is a big one as well. He's always been a typically fast starter in the NRL. 2022, he averaged 84.4 across his first 5 games. In 2023, he averaged 79 points per game. Regressed to 60 points per game last season. I don't have him in my team at the moment because I'm really happy with the Connor Watson, Sandon Smith duo, or, whether it's Sandon Smith and another sort of mid-tier hooker to start the year. But I can't argue with anyone who just wants to lock him in from round 1 and just say, if he stays fit, you don't leave my team all season. What do you reckon? Yeah,
I think he's definitely a big player who doesn't really deviate in his averages depending on the team, depending on the venue. He's still going to get you that pretty solid score of around 60 and 50. He had 91 in that grand final against Penrith as well. So he is looking like a bit of a set and forget, I reckon. Out of all the Melbourne players you could possibly put in, he's probably the main guy I'd go for.
Are you looking to start him?
Against that Parramatta game, I'm tempted. I'm tempted to start him in that Parramatta game. Obviously, rest him for that bye and then just keep him going. He could be, as you mentioned, the hooker role was pretty disastrous last season. I mean, you got Connor Watson there who does play in that middle as well on top of it. But I think I might start Harry Grant because I just don't know who else is around the corner, to be honest.
Fair. And you are... The beauty of round 2 is you got Sandon Smith. I think he's very playable in 17s this season. So you get to round 2, Harry out, start Sandon Smith, happy days. But yes, not for me for the time being. I'm looking at going a little bit cheaper, but I'm not going to knock anyone wanting to do it. Ryan Pappenhausen. This is where the one that becomes a little interesting. If we knew he was goal kicking, do you think he'll goal kick firstly or not? Or do you think they'll stick with Nick Meaney? I don't know at this stage.
I reckon they'll keep with Nick Meaney. Yeah.
So if he was goal kicking, he would be a huge option. He's priced at 616k off a 63-point average last season. Now, disregard his 2 injury-affected games last season. He averaged, what were we? So 63.3. If you take out the 2 games that he returned from lengthy injury layoffs, that bumps to 71.23. So the numbers are a lot better. He could average... We've seen him average 85 plus and the rest in the past. He averaged 90 points per game in 2022. It's hard with fullback because there are so many good options. I don't think you could probably pick him from round one if he's not goal kicking. If he was goal kicking, Rando, super tempted. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple of games, obviously, with the Penrith game, probably wouldn't get up to his high scoring potential. But you look at the Parramatta, their defence was absolutely shot last season. He averages 92 against them. It's also in Melbourne, that game too. He loves playing Manly. He loves playing the Dragons, the Warriors. Any other team that he can just flex his attacking muscle, he goes off. 6.16 is tempting, and you don't want him to race out to a high price. But I got to see him kick. I think that's the big one, and we're only going to see in round one. You'll have the round two buy, I guess, of no price change. That's the beauty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you just need to wait. I wouldn't be starting him.
Yeah. I ballsed up the 2 injury-affected game ones. I'll fix that up in the article. But moving on, it was about 67 though. It was about,
all right.
It was about
That's
a 4 or
all
5 point average increase on his average. So let's just, we make mistakes. It's a hot day. Cameron Munster at 609K. A few admirers early on in the season. I've seen a lot of people, a few content creators on social media talking him up at different stages for the preseason. Mate, he's coming back from off-season surgery around, it was the hips or the groin or whatever it was. The round two bye in a star-studded team with Pappy, Grant, Hughes, all these gun playmakers. I don't like it. I just think, I want to see how he comes back. Even if he comes and looks okay in the trial games, I actually wouldn't be surprised if they put Munster on ice a little bit earlier on in the season with the round two bye and just brought him back round three, started Tyron Wishart round one. He may not, we'll know soon enough, but you look at Cam Munster, 609K, the cheapest he's been to start a season in years. But I'm just not hearing how. I haven't heard that he's flying in pre-season good to go because of his injury concerns. I want to see it.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to see it too. I wouldn't even mind putting up some Supercoach scores in the preseason if he does play a preseason trial.
I don't even need to see the scores, just see him moving well.
Yeah, exactly.
He might not even play in the preseason games.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, even if he plays 25 minutes, what he does in that 25 minutes, if he's still free moving, we probably still won't get an assessment. I don't think I would start him at the moment. I still think Dylan Brown is, the safe bet to start the season there. So, all depends how the surgery goes post-hip. He was still putting up pretty good scores with his dodgy hip as well.
Well, that's the thing, mate. I'm sort of looking at it going, if I don't start with him, which I won't, plays round one, round two bye, he won't get a price rise till round four. At least we got to look at him at his price. He's pretty cheap. Can get him in for round four if he's killing it. But I'm just not keen at all. In terms of upside, like he averaged 62 last year. He averaged 70 plus the 4 years prior to that, including an 81 average in 2022. So if he's the Munster of old and fit and firing, he could be a steal and the solution to that 5'8" headache. I'm just worried about the injuries going into round one. Mate, moving down the list at the Melbourne Storm, Stefano Udakamanu, 529K. I'm not keen personally. He averaged 54 points in 50 minutes with 41 base per game last season at the Tigers. He offloaded 22 times in 24 games in 2024. I want my front rowers offloading. I don't know if he's going to get that at the Melbourne Storm under Craig Bellamy. I don't see much room for improvement on last season. Again, if he does come out and kill it in the new environment, we know he's capable of it, but I don't see a lot of improvement there. I'm happy to watch him early. Yeah,
got to see his minutes first and what he does under a Craig Bellamy coach team.
Jack Howarth is an interesting one. I saw a fair bit of hype around him and I thought, I knew that his base wasn't great last year and I sort of thought, what's all the hype around? Provided he does lock down that starting centre role, upon further deep dive, he looks okay. 9 80-minute games last season, he averaged 52.88 points. He's priced on a 44-point average. This is a bloke who spent a lot of time coming through the grades in the back row. He's still learning the trade at centre and as an NRL player. He'll, again, grow into his body. He's a pretty young fella. Lost the dual 2RF CTW positioning, which not ideal. I'm not going to start with him, but I see merit in it, and I definitely think he's underpriced. How do you feel about Jack Howarth?
Yeah, he's definitely underpriced at the moment, so I don't really mind him as a possible option if you are looking for someone a little on the cheap side. Geez, you've scared me with Moses Leo. I thought Jack Howarth would have had that centre spot down pat, but now that the noise around Leo is getting bigger and we know what Craig Bellamy can do to New Zealand Sevens converts, Will Warbrick, case in point. So I mean, for me, as a Supercoach player, he doesn't really put up the points that I'm looking for at the moment. So I'm happy just to wait and watch.
Yeah, for the record, I said, like, I think their centre pairing to start the season will be Meaney and Howarth.
Yeah.
It's just saying there's a
I know.
There's a conversation there, mate. What is it, scaremonger? Matty, Storm, anything to add?
Geez, there's a lot going on in Melbourne, isn't there?
Yeah.
Supercoach-wise.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we haven't even touched on if Saw Longo is going to be anywhere in the team.
Yeah.
Not that you'd ever pick him, but, like, that could like, disrupt pretty much half your team, half the Storm-related players right there. Look, I don't really have that much to add. I certainly wouldn't touch any of the halves. I think Jerome Hughes, he had a great year last year. If he has the same year this year, he's still not going to go. Like, he probably won't improve on last year. Like, he killed it last year. And then, he's not going to, I don't think he'll get much more money than what he is now. Plus, there's too many good options there. Definitely not touching Munster. He had, what was it? Double groin surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah, not happening. I actually have nothing to add. All I know is that I want Eli Katoa and I want him fast. Because
Starting with him?
I haven't done my team yet. I should have. I'll do it by next week. So I can't. I'm not going to sit here and say because I don't know if I have free cash here and there. But geez, I love him. I really love him. And he, like, unlike Hughes, he's going up and up and up.
Yeah.
Like, he's still 24, isn't he? 25. So I want him and I want him fast.
Yeah. All righty. Yeah, I think Jerome Hughes, pencil him in at the absolute latest, just before Origin starts.
Yeah.
Get you through that period. You're probably set and forget him till the end of the season, but happy to wait for him there. Now, guys, long-time partners of SC Playbook, Mortgage Choice, Sutherland, Cronulla and Wollongong, led by Paddy and his team. They're back on deck in 2025 to support us. Over the last few years, they've helped out a ton of SC Playbook listeners with their financial goals. I know there's already been plenty of people hitting them up on Instagram, calls, that sort of stuff, with references to get help in 2025. They can help you with first home purchases, investment purchases, asset and commercial finance, personal loans and debt consolidation. So if 2025 is the year you want to dip your toes into the water of the housing market, but you don't know where to start, give him a call. Paddy and his team at Mortgage Choice SCW, they are the answer. So usually it'll cost you $129, but if you mention SC Playbook, completely free of charge. To do so, flick them a message on Instagram at mortgagechoice_SCW or give them a buzz on 02 9521 1611, no matter where in Australia you are based. Now, Rando, moving on to the Manly Warringah Seagulls. Tommy Trbojevic at fullback, Jason Saab and Lehigh Hopewade on the wings, Ruben Garrick and Tolotau Kola at centre, Luke Brooks and Daly Cherry Evans in the halves, Taniela Paseka, Josh Alawai at prop, Jake Simpkin at number 9, Lockie Croker's out to round 4, Hamole Olakwatu and Ben Trbojevic on the edges, Jake Trbojevic at lock, and a bench of Jazz Tavanga, Nathan Brown, Toa Sipley and Ethan Bullymore. Pretty settled lineup. The question marks there will be, number 9 with Lockie Croker out. Will it be Jake Simpkin? Gordon Chan come Tong? Does Gordy get a bench spot? I feel with Jazz Tavanga there, they just play Simpkin big minutes and Tavanga's there for cover if need be at any stage. And then the biggest battle probably is just that Tommy Talau versus Lehigh Hopewade and who gets the wing spot there. But could be either. Talau was good last year. Hopewade, I think, is a staple of this team for a long time to come. He looks like a future star. So I'm going to back Lehigh Hopewade, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Mate, their draw to start the season, a very enticing one. The Cowboys at home, the Warriors away, the Raiders at home, the Eels at home, and the Storm at home. It is a tremendous draw. I've rated it 8 out of 10.
That's a great one.
That's a great one. Great. A solid 8 out of 10?
Solid. I would even go 9 out of 10, but...
It could be nice, especially with their record against the Storm at Brookie.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. It looks bloody good. Bloody good.
Let's start at the big boy.
How is this guy an 8 out of 10? I put him at 11.
My buy rating of Tom Trbojevic is an 8 out of 10, and I don't know why. Actually, I do know why. It's $875,000 worth. And also, there's so much context, which I should explain around my buy ratings for every player in my squad analysis on site. Tom Trbojevic is coming up against Kalen Ponga, who could go nuts, Latrell Mitchell, James Tedesco, Ryan Papenhuyzen, all these brilliant fullbacks. Like, if Tom Trbojevic was available at 5'8", he'd be a 15 out of 10. He'd be like the biggest set and forget you've ever seen in your entire life. Well, not a set and forget because he'll get injured at some point, but you get what I'm saying. Matty started 2024 with a 77-point average across the first 5 games. The final of those was 111 against Penrith, of all teams. Finished the season with an average of 104 in his final 8 games coming back from injury. I think a fully fit Tom Trbojevic, which we believe we have, I think you just start with him.
You got to. I mean, you have to start with him. He averages over 100 against the first 4 opponents he plays. Then he's got Cronulla in Perth. On top of that, the 4 of the first 5 games Manly play are at Brookie.
Yeah.
How good is that? He averages 88 at the venue since 2020. I think that he's your captain for the first 5, maybe up until that bye round, of course. Hope to God that he doesn't get injured until then. But yeah, I think this guy is my first picked in my team. Captain.
I think if you don't have Turbo, you're robbing yourself of being able to enjoy rugby league. Because, like, I remember, was it last year? We were watching it with Guru, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Guru didn't have him, and he spent the whole 80 minutes petrified.
It sucked.
Like, it just, like, not having Turbo, I couldn't even dream of it.
Rando, you're a Cowboys fan. They play Manly round 1. If you don't own Turbo, you're a diehard Cowboy. You just don't watch the game.
Basically, I mean, if it wasn't painful enough playing them first round at Brookie, it's painful not having Turbo at all. 137 average against him as well.
And the thing is, mate, like, if you start Tom Trbojevic and he does get injured at that price, you move him across or down to any fullback in the game.
Yeah.
The only argument against it, obviously, there's always an injury concern with Tommy Turbo, but I keep saying it, you might want to start with like a Latrell Ponga combination.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I just think life is just easier with Tommy Turbo on your team.
100%. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would you put yourself through that? On top of that, his price, $875K. He finished the season last year, $999,000. So you're basically saving almost $150K there. Just get him. Just get him.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Leave out at your own peril. Hamole Olakuatu, a bloke who, honestly, in the days that since I've written this article, had him as a 6 out of 10. And I'm happy to keep him there, but I wasn't over interested. I'm getting more interested in him because of that draw. I'm looking at the elite back rowers, and they're all sort of 700 plus. You look at Katoa, Crichton, a few of these big boys for feeder. 665 just doesn't feel like a bad price for Olakuatu. Averaged 68 and 69 the last 2 seasons. Base is 43, has a base of 43 per game, which isn't great, but with Ola, there's tackle breaks, there's offloads, there's always attacking stats, a good draw. Not in my team at the moment. Wouldn't mind it. Probably won't be able to get him with the way I've structured my team, but he's always enticing.
100%, and the unfortunate part is that his average against the teams that he plays during the Origin period, it's over 60. I'm not too keen on him at the start of the season. He's got a great average against the Cowboys, got an great average against the Dragons, who he plays in round 7, but in between then he averages under 60 points against those teams in between. Mm-hmm. Definitely someone to look at in the future, maybe towards the back end of the season as well, but I don't think he's on my radar. I think 6 out of 10 is a bit fair.
Ruben Garrick, 680K. One that I would love to have in my team. All the chat last year was how the move to centre was going to impact his Supercoach output. The answer is it didn't really. I would still prefer him on the wing, but he averaged 70. But that was with 3 injury-impacted games where he played a total of 55 minutes. You take those out, he averaged 79.16. And his base, without those 3 games, goes from 32 to 35, which is pretty solid. You add, between his base and his goal kicking, he's averaging 50 points per game before any attacking stats. With that early draw, I generally don't like paying up too much for a CT dub early on in the season. The main reason for that is, I touch on it often, but defenses are just better earlier. There's never blowout score lines, these sorts of things. Attacks are a bit clunky, but Ruben Garrick does feel like one with upside in what looks a good Manly team in my eyes. I would love to get him in, Rando.
100%, and I really do like him, especially the opening couple of games as well. He's got the Cowboys with Val Holmes out of the squad. They've got a new left left edge combination there that they're attacking in that first game. They've got the Raiders and the Warriors, who are traditionally known for being wobbly on their edges as well. Parramatta were shocking down their left edge last season as well. Those first 4 games, I can see him racking up plenty of points if he doesn't cop any knocks to the head.
Yes, rest that melon, Rubes. Mate, I'll put you on the spot. I think a big headache, speaking of knocks to the head, that was not intended, that people will have picking their teams for round 1, it'll be Garrick v Kiraz. If you could only have one of them, who are you choosing?
I'm going to pick Garrick purely because I think the Seagulls have got some points in them in these opening games, and he's a goal kicker as well. So that just entices me too much. And we talked about it just before, Bulldogs, notable slow starters to the season as well. So I do like Garrick here.
Yeah. I narrowly lean to Garrick as well. I love them both, but I just think for similar soft draw, goal kicking, I like the Garrick play. Daly Cherry Evans, 646k. Any interest there?
I actually like this play. I know that most people kind of look away for Cherry Evans because of the age factor. Of course, you got the 36 number there in the article, but age shall not weary him. He's got a great average heading into this. I've got his first 10 round average around 71. Brilliant at home. Loves playing the Cowboys, Warriors, the Sharkies, and he gets some solid scores there against Melbourne and Parramatta too. So I think we could see a good start here for the Seagulls, and he's going to be the key down that right edge with Ola Kawatu, Turbo on that sweep as well. So I really don't mind him if you're running out of budget because you've gone the 3 fullback play. He's a possible option there at halfback.
I don't love the Cherry Evans play. Again, the draw is a massive benefit. All that 4 or 5 at Brookie to start. I just think he needs the goal kicking to be in a conversation around, if you're starting him over Nico Hines or Nathan Cleary, I think he needs to be goal kicking to warrant it, because I just think that Cleary and Hines' ceiling is so big. I don't think Ches has that ceiling, particularly early on in the season, without the goal kicking. So not for me. If anything were happening to Rubes Garrick and Ches did take over the goal kicking, I would look at him, but I just think Cleary Hines is that safe.
Do you think that his price will go up from 646 to around that 700 mark before around round 10?
Put it this way, I think if he does not even starts goal kicking, I don't think it'll get out of hand anytime soon.
Yeah.
If you did want him, but I don't know. For it to happen, it'd have to also be like a Cleary or Hines start terribly, in which case they've got a 200 break even. You're like, okay, they're about to plummet cash. And he'd have to start on fire to warrant doing it, or injury, of course. But I think there's better options. In which case, I'd potentially even look to go get Harry Grant in and put Sandon Smith down to halfback if I was getting rid of Hines or Cleary. Taniela Paseka, he's at 441k, priced on a 45-point average from last season, down from 54 in 2023. 30 tackle busts last season. He had a base of 41 per game. I think there's a bit of uptick there, and I think he's undervalued a little, but I think there's probably some better options available. And what about the cheapie number 9s, Rando? Jake Simpkin, he's at 318k. Gordon Chan Kum Tong at 232k. Let's say, leading into round 1, hypothetical, one of them gets the sole hooking role, the other one nowhere to be seen. Any interest in starting with either of them as cheapies?
As you mentioned, Jazz Tavanga being on the bench there, I don't know if they play the 80. I think that they will split their time there, particularly Jake Trebojevic you got in the middle. He'll play 80 minutes at lock, so that means that Tavanga, if he does get that 14 role, he will be kind of swapping in and out with one of Simpkin or Kumtong.
And now, let's move on, mate, to the North Queensland Cowboys.
How much time have we got left?
It's about time. I cut the others short so we'll spend more time on the Cows. They play to start the season. The Sea Eagles away, the Sharks at home, the Broncos away, the Raiders at home, the Panthers away. I've got that as a 4 out of 10. It's a pretty tough start to the season, mate. What do you think? What do you think of my rating there?
Yeah, I think 4 out of 10 is definitely on the money here, particularly with a lot of personnel change there for the Cowboys. You got Dearden and now Clifford will be the dominant starting half. But breathing down his back is Tom Duffy, who I've heard great noise from up north. So be really interested to see how that goes. The new edge pairing there of probably Perdeaux and Taulungi. We know Perdeaux can play centre before. He's proven that before. But it's going to be tough. It's a new season that he's starting in on. So we'll be really interested to see how he goes. And Mate, I'm just annoyed, shocked, frustrated that, another injury to Lukey, another ACL to both Chester and Lukey. It's very tough because I thought Lukey was in for a massive season.
Yeah. And very much potential Queensland duties as well. He had such a tough run, and that 17 to me does look like, and there are a few things up for debate here, but Scott Drinkwater at fullback, Mario Taulagi on the wing with Sammy Valemai, Viliami Vailea and Jackson Purdue make up the centre pairing, Tom Dearden and Jake Clifford in the halves, Jordan McLean, Jason Taumalo up front. Taumalo under an injury cloud with a foot injury, but hoping to be back for round one. Reece Robson at 9, Johnny Bateman and Jeremiah Nanai on the edge, Ruben Cotter at lock, Carl Lawton, Griffin Neem, Sam McIntyre and Cohen Hess make up the bench. I suppose the Cowboys fan, the two big ones there that you mentioned are, of course, Jake Clifford versus Thomas Duffy, who will start in the number 7 jumper. And then I suppose the other one is just, there's a bit of chat that Zach Laybutt, who great footballer, big future, also has had a lot of injury troubles, that they're going to return him via Queensland Cup early on, get some minutes under his belt, which opens a spot for Purdue. Do you agree with the sort of the back 5 that I have, or the back 7, the back line, that Purdue in there, Valemai, Robert Darby's the other one who's highly touted, he could come in, and then probably the big one, Clifford versus Duffy. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think Jay Clifford, I thought he had a great final series for the Cowboys. I think he definitely gets the starting spot and we'll have a few games to solidify that. I really do think that you've kind of got the centres down pat as well. I don't expect Laybutt to be thrown straight into the side, but we saw that when he was starting at the very start of the season, he absolutely killed it for the Cowboys. So I do think that is the expected one. The interesting one will be to see how many minutes Johnny Bateman can last out there in the Townsville sun, and whether Carl Lawton will be getting a fair share of those minutes split between them. Be very interesting to see that.
I tell you what, if Thomas Duffy gets the nod there at 198k, halfback only,
Jesus,
that'll throw a cat amongst the pigeons for round one.
100%. And there is so much good stuff being said about that kid as well. So, yeah, I think Clifford for now. We got to remember what he did in the last couple of weeks of the competition for the Cowboys, getting through to the finals, getting through to that next round. I think he definitely gets the nod ahead. But Duffy, I reckon he'll play a few games of first grade this season.
Mate, Scotty Drinkwater will start at the top, 770k. All these mention of these fullbacks, and not even a touch on Scotty Drinkwater. He averaged 79 last season, 83 back in 2023. Are we just expecting him to kick goals?
Hopefully he does. But if he does do that, oh God, his average is going to go up big time. I actually never even thought about us losing Val Holmes. He's just been such a staple in our team. But I reckon he could be kicking goals, and we could be seeing some big scores if that is the case.
Well, he'll be the flyer. He'll be the pod to start the season if so, because you can bump his average up by, I'd say, minimum 10.
Yeah.
We'll crunch a few numbers later on. That's your job, mate. That's what you're here for.
I know.
But he becomes a serious pod player early on. I assume he will get the goal kicking.
Yeah, I don't see as worst case scenario it's Jake Clifford, but I think he definitely gets the first shot at it.
Well, I mean, they played together last year, and I believe he kicked goals at some stage. Drinky with Clifford in the team. We'd have to double check that, but Val didn't miss many games, did he?
I mean, we look at that one game where he was goal kicking. It was against the Roosters. It was a low scoring game. Yeah, he had a try and an assist on top, but still push past that 101 runs. The best thing about that 101 score, actually, he only took 9 runs that whole game, and he still managed to clean up 101 with the kicking duties as well. So, yeah, his ceiling could be anything if he does have the kicking tee.
What I will say is that he has to be goal kicking to consider him and to go over Ponga or Latrell or Turbo or whatever 100%. It might be. Moving down the list at the Cowboys, I'll throw a few at you, mate. Tommy Dearden at 597k. Always a relatively enticing Supercoach option, but probably hasn't quite hit the heights that we've wanted. He always has moments and always has a big game here and there. I think probably not goal kicking is something that holds him back against a few of his rivals in the position. Ruben Cotter at 590k. If you want, I had him all of last season and I didn't have any headaches at number 9, unlike most, because he's so durable, played big minutes. He'll average a 60-odd again, could do a job. Does anyone sort of pique your interest at the Cowboys to start the season?
I think that as a potential option for a 5-8 fix, if you're looking for a Tom Dearden here, he finished the season so well. He had 5 scores over 70 in his last 7 games, finals included. So he can definitely pick up the slack. And in particular to note, in those 7 games, that was without Chad Townsend. And Chad Townsend, he finished second with Scott Drinkwater for try assists for the Cowboys. And they were going, I think it was 25 and 24 try assists for both of them each. So Thomas didn't have to do a lot more work, and boy, did he step up to the plate with that. So he's definitely a potential option. Forget his start of the season form last year when he was with Townsend. He could be an option there. This is a cheeky one, but I don't mind John Bateman. Like, as I mentioned, I know the Queensland heat might get to him, but I really don't mind a Johnny Bateman. He did post some good scores for the Tigers around that 70 mark back last season. But if he looks to get the full 80 here, there is potential that 522 isn't a bad number.
Well, provided he handles that heat all right and he's fit and good to go, I think he probably plays 80 on the edge with Lukey now gone. There aren't a ton of other options to start on the edge. Cohen Hess has done a bit in the past. He's coming back from a lengthy injury.
He's a front rower now.
I think they need him through the middle. So, I mean, he's another eye test one. Like, how does he look in the preseason? Do we get, because he does start cheap. If so, there's just hasn't seemed to happen for Johnny Bateman in recent years. Across NRL, it's translated to Supercoach scoring-wise, but he's averaged big in the past. He averaged 70 back in 2020, 61 back in 2023, so he could be undervalued. I'd need to see him belt out and kill the trials because at this point, I'm not interested. And I don't actually love a lot of Cowboys players to start the season outside of potential cheapies. As I mentioned, Jackson Purdue. If Zach Laibart starts, I'm a big fan of him.
Yep.
I thought I had him in my starting team. Then there was this chart of him coming back through Q Cup. If he starts round 1, I'm nearly willing to pay that little bit extra. But Purdue at the starting price, if he plays round 1, he's going to be hard to ignore. Outside of that, mate, not too much for me. Cohen Hess, an ideal scenario for Supercoaches there is if he starts off the bench on return from injury, drops another 30 or 40K, and we can pick him up in that cheapy sort of forward slot. But, not too much interest. Matty, I think I skipped you at Manly as well. Anything to add from Manly or the Cowboys?
No, not Manly. I basically covered everything with Turbo. Just get him. I reckon I've been guilty in recent years of not pulling the trigger on good centres quick enough. Examples of Kiraz and Garrick from recent years. I don't think I've ever owned Kiraz, which is wild. So personally, I'll be probably looking with my eyes wide open more at people like Garrick. Cowboys are a tough team this year. I don't know what to expect for them on the field. I don't know what to expect from those Supercoach players. We don't know who their halfback's going to be. I'm with you, Rando. I reckon it'll be Clifford. But the way that Duffy played reserve grade last year, well, not that I watched any, but I've seen like what people have said. Seems like he's a real chance at some point. Part of me hopes he doesn't because I just want to get Cleary and Hines.
I know.
But yeah, they're a tough one for me, the Cowboys. They really are. When we do the season preview next week, I don't know where I'm going to place them. I've got no idea.
I've got them low. I just think because of the injuries that have already happened. And I think...
It's devastating, isn't it?
Yes,
it really is.
I think that to start the season with 2 relatively, or certainly 1 key player and potentially another for the season, an upcomer in Tommy Chester, gone from your roster for the year, it's just... I think their depth is going to be an issue. Apparently, Rando and all reports some really good rookies coming through.
Yeah, plenty.
But we might be a couple of years away. Like, they'd need to come through this year when injuries strike, and hopefully they do.
Yeah.
I just think it might be a year too early for a few of these highly touted youngsters. So I think they're in for a tough year, and I'm pretty happy, at least early on, to avoid from Supercoach perspective, barring potentially a few cheapies. Mate, that might do us.
That was a good knock.
It's exciting times ahead. Guys, that'll do us for this week's episode. Have a great week.